Today is obviously going to be a massive show. It's scheduled to be for about an hour and a half, but this thing is going to take you everywhere that you need to go. I wanted to take a moment to center myself. We're actually less than a week away from the arrival of the AstroQuest crew, at least the first part of the crew, and man, it's been a lot going on over here. I wish I had the GoPro 3 camera running where I would just back and forth, moving things, putting new stuff in, installing stuff, and getting ready to take this to another level. But also the message is continuing to increase, even though I'm engaged in just some physical stuff and just moving things and stuff like that. I still have that inner self that's showing me so many different analogies and showing me so many different things that I may have overlooked. And so it's awesome to be able to share that. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and check with my audio, because we do have some new stuff in here, just to make sure that someone says sounds exciting. So obviously they can hear it. Someone says there's some reverb. So let me see how we can fix that. Let me just take a listen. Sounds clear to me. If you're having reverb, that means maybe something's up with your sound system. But if someone else is having that issue, let me know and I will fix it. Also, I've always keep a high definition copy of today's show, and that's actually already recording. So if for some reason on your end you're experiencing connection issues or there may be some trouble in the bandwidth, you'll have a high definition copy of today's show made available to you, courtesy of the Resistance crew. So let me figure out where my notes are on today's conversations, but it's not going to be like I really need them, because all of what is conveyed on today's show is actually inside. It didn't appear into this external world until much later on. So a great deal of information I'm going to give today is for truth seekers, because I realize you really have two different kind of people in this world now. You have truth seekers and truth suppressors, and pretty much between those two factions, we find ourselves somewhat lost on this planet, trying to figure out who we are, where do we come from, where's our core, where's galactic core, et cetera, et cetera. And this has been because, and I can narrow it down to just probably a paragraph, that the mother church, which has nothing to do with a woman, also known as Circe, C-I-R-C-E, has become the surrogate mother of this world and said to everyone that you cannot go out and learn from anything else beside me, meaning that what the mother church does, Rome, the Vatican, Jesuits, etc., is they say when you pick up one of those spiritual books that you're not to go outside of this spiritual book looking for spiritual enlightenment, or you will be misled. Okay, so this is what I talk about with the forked tongue, because remember that these individuals know already what I'm going to explain to you today. And that's why it's so easy for them to get really close to the truth, but it's an external truth. And so as long as they can keep you external, then they can keep you believing that they're your mother and that they're where your substance should be pulled from. And meanwhile, they're out of energy themselves. So I want to talk first about, again, this mother church, as I mentioned earlier, that is not a woman. It's a structure that has been set up as an artificial womb. So in many sense, when you see these in the parliament, the men running around with wigs, and you see the judge with the robe on, it's because they work for the mother church. And so they attempt to emulate the style of the woman in the womb, and that's where that comes from. So you can basically see that thousands of years of this dark age that we've been in has come because people have been taken from being internalized and knowing how they connect with the universe internally and then spreading joy and happiness externally with the environment, to a complete false identity and then a projection of a straw character. And in many sense, if you see that you don't get to choose your name, you come into this world and your mother gets to choose the names based on the names of the country she's in. That's why people in America, most of them, 90% of them have American names. Why people in the Arab countries, 90% of them have Arab names. So this means the country and the names that have been passed around the country start to denote what your name is. And then you're given an identification. They're saying this is who you are, and this is what you need to learn, and this is what it takes to succeed. So you need to wake up and realize that someone has been dictating to you how you should be. And no matter what, every point you look over it, whether it's religion, whether it's the medical system, every point that you look over, there's something wrong. Even a person with logical sense can look at it and say, well, if we would just remove this concept of that, there's only one, and make it an infinite or unlimited number, then we would uncap the energy potential. Meaning that when you tell a person that there's only one God, and then you have those group of people believing that there's only one God, so they believe their God is different than everyone else's, even though there's only one, but they miss that. But everyone else is serving an anti-God, they say, a devil. So once this starts, then you get an entire world working on division, or artificial deva. Okay? Now, the thing about this world, if you notice, is it's the king or queen of variation. There's different kinds of phones and different kinds of people and different kinds of animals and insects and all of this different stuff that if you decided just this life you were going to get into insects, you would be your whole life still trying to find one insect on the floor of South Africa. Like the guy on the BBC. If you spend your whole life just looking at trees, man, there are books that are this thick with the Latin names of all the trees. I suggest you might want to thumb through there and get how the etymology is working in there so that you can see the trees have already been mapped out. But it took a long expanse of time because a group of individuals, not just men, but men and women working in conjunction, were actually in a major self-discovery of self here on this planet. Meaning that they looked into nature to discover who they really were. And what they saw working in late nature, they came to an epiphany and said, that is working also within. And so you can see how aeons passed in self-discovery, which is like full perpetual energy. Self-discovery in itself is really communion. It's actually when you're mating with yourself like an androgen, and you don't need anything to boost you up. And when something doesn't happen externally wrong, you don't get let down. You see what I mean? So this is the perpetual superhuman running on super fuels, beginning first with superfoods. Now, the thing that you have to understand here is that I'm just like everyone else, except that I've taken knowledge and I've applied it. I've started to dig through. You can start anywhere. You can start in the Bible. You can start with a little pamphlet on the ground. You can even start with an AA book. You can start with some other thing beside yourself that will eventually lead you back to yourself if you're devout, if you are dedicated, if you have a will. And so you can see how the world is designed to domesticate and break the will, because no matter what, you can look at a flower, and if you have a great will, you'll come to an epiphany that flower is really you. You see what I mean? And then you'll start looking around and you'll keep having these epiphanies, and they actually equal DNA activation, which is energy. Realization is energy. So what happens is that, again, in a divisive world, you have to ask yourself, what is going on in the dream? I get emails all the time about people telling me about these dreams, and they're on these grand adventures, like they're just in there like PlayStation, they're creating the environment, and then all of a sudden someone shows up, they fully act out in their own role and character, and then the person begins to believe that, man, I couldn't be projecting this stuff because, shoot, I don't even know who these people are. Or do you? You see, in a stage of forgetfulness, how can you say who you know, who and who is what, and who you see what I mean? You have to do that after you come into full enlightenment. So I have to first start this conversation, because that's how my notes begin. I've been writing for 2 weeks, as I always do. About this, the dream scope is what I'm calling it. The dream scope, to me, is very similar to a telescope in the sense that it has many refracting mirrors, and depending on how those mirrors are adjusted, it will take whatever it's being focused on and either show you exactly what's going on or distort it slightly. And anyone who's ever used a high-power microscope or telescope knows this. If you don't line up the lenses properly, at best you'll see something distorted. So because of the body is made up of these lenses, and we won't get into numbers now, when you're asleep, and because the globe is spinning, your lenses are constantly turning based on where you're positioned in your bed. And because your bed doesn't move, but the constellation does, every night you potentially visit another constellation. Now, here's the interesting thing about exactly how this whole thing is tied together. When you look at the dream world, and then you look at the definitions of the dream world, and then you tie that into the definitions of the spiritual world, you'll start noticing some uncanny similarities. One, if you die in the astral plane, it's only an illusion because you can't die, you're immortal. If you die in the dream, you wake up in the morning. There are so many things, if you really start thinking about it, in the astral plane, you can be whoever you want to be. You can think something and it'll appear. In the dream, same thing. Is the dream really the astral plane? And just about as much control as you have over the dream is just about as much control as you have over the astral plane right now. And then that actually ties into just about how much real control you have over the world and your currency. And again, you have to now move yourself away from, this is the term was used, terrain modification, realm dynamics. You have to move yourself away from this old system and frequency and its culture or petri dish, and then you have to jump into not another one, but something in which is more expansive and unlimited. Where we're going from here, I tell you the truth, is unlimited. Your question is at times, will everyone be there? Everyone thought, will everyone go? I guess some people won't go. Most of the time when people get mad, they actually cancel out like 80% of the people, and everyone won't go. Let me check my sound. They're not going with me. But you don't realize everyone's going, all organic beings that mirror themselves, because that's the evidence that you're real, is if you mirror, breathe in, breathe out. All inorganic things don't mirror. These computers, they mirror through Apple TV, but other than that, they don't have any blink, open, night, day type cycle thing going on with them, except for what you give them. So we need to think very deeply about what's going on in our reality. And we need to understand now this dream scope. That's why I get to my notes, because guys, I can start taking off on the ship. The dream scope and how it works is that every night, do not believe that what you will see in the dream is what's going to happen the next day unless you are completely lined up. Other than that, what you do is you go into the refraction of the light of the world in which you projected yourself through your pineal gland, which is a projector. And now you're in that world being that character, which is another correspondence of you, all is self. You just go in and jump in and you're living a real life, jump in the car, drive off. You see what I mean? But how much of it is actually going on, though, in that world, meaning how much control you have over what you're dreaming that you're doing in that world, is the same as how clear you are in that dream. So you could see yourself doing something crazy, and that's just because of the refraction of the light has showed you a distorted version of what you're really doing there. There's no connection. The connection is interrupted. And again, the dream scope is really difficult to explain, more easy to show. Because how it works is that that means that you're on this wheel that's spinning like this. And the moment that you take your projection, once you close your eyes and your spirit decides to go, when you project, that dream world that you go into could be completely different than the dream world that you went 3 days ago. And then this is where the dreams start to become confusing. But what I'm telling you is that each day you dive into another world. Now, you sleep almost every day, most people. Think about that. You visit the dream world often. Some people 2 days tops, 3 days gets a little weird. 4 days, you actually get into sleep deprivation, which is already opens you up to the dream world. You're forced into the spiritual plane when you decide that you don't actually want to go to sleep. You see what I mean? So this is not something that the Illuminati put together. This is something that works with the body and is default with the body. If you go to sleep, then you're going into the astral plane whether you're ready or not. And so that's why there are lucid dreamers, those who can control the dream. So Still remember, though, and the reason why I wanted to explain this is because this will answer a lot, even though it's not directly related to the conversation we're going to have today in a minute when we get into the body and the masters of the Innerverse, but it is directly related to exactly how you need to understand the spectrum. And why so many people are trying to say that, okay, there's 7 colors on the spectrum, right? When the spectrum smears, each of those little different shades are basically different colors. So if you want to get to counting those, and that's why numbers don't really do that excellent when you're getting into higher levels of unlimited knowledge, because now you got to count every single smear in the shade. You don't just say red, and that's 1, and then green, and that's 2. I mean, come on. But before we got off this level of knowledge that we needed that we need to have inside of us to understand how to guide our ship, they didn't use these kind of numbers and diagrams and symbols and signs. As we began to progress and we began to try to tamper with something that was already perfect because it was running, then that's when we had to start trying to count things and denote if there's 1 or if there's 7 or if there's 5 sticks or 6 sticks. As we use an entirely different way, which is an external way to figure out a world. Now, the only people who would need to externally figure out a world are ones that are not from that world. Everyone else from that world would know how that world works because the world is inside them. So imagine, you already can map out that there are arrivals all the time from other beings, because anytime one particular being, and I'll show some clips from them today, especially the ones, the ruling class, the royal family, needs to catalog and acts like John D would be the authority on the spiritual world versus some real shaman, some real high lama somewhere, and you're going to choose John D, and he's basically going off of Agrippa's work. So you see, what is really going on here on this planet? Like, who are we consulting to tell us what is going on in our bodies? Are we asking ourselves, or are we asking the surrogate mother? So here we go. I'm going to show you really briefly that those who are acting like they're the parents don't even like parenting, meaning that there is nothing that fascinates them about being here with you. So this is a different approach because all parents should love their children. So there you have it. The royal family in itself, in its rearing, was reared by family members who didn't even get in touch with their children. So if you're going to come at me and tell me that the individuals that have developed this system, per se, have our best interest in mind, it's going to be very difficult for me to believe that. Especially when I sit down myself, not listening to somebody else, but sit down myself and I just educate myself. Go to the BBC and I see what they say about their own people. This is a BBC documentary. So anytime you want to know what's going on in this world and what's happening, you don't have to look any further than even this show today. Because you'll see that all of the symbolism that has come into this world and been changed and modified has been only symbolism showing that the power is really within, and that the body is the macro and microcosmic universe, and that's it. So the truth seeker seeks within. Now, of course, there was a time where there were men and women giving knowledge freely and showing the techniques freely, and we are returning to that phase. But we've just left a phase now that appears as if all of the symbolism is by none other than the Illuminati. And so before I show these symbols, first I will say, I have a disclosure here. Actually, let me catch up also with my notes. Yeah, we still have a lot of extra stuff to go through here. Okay, here we go. So my disclosure here is immense, and it's going to show you that all the esoteric symbols are related to the body, nothing to do with anything really external. However, some of the symbols that you will see are affiliated externally with factions that you would call the Illuminati, Masons, Ordinati, whatever. And I can definitely tell you that I am not a representative of any of these parties, nor do I sup with them. Internally, however, what I have discovered within these symbols and how they really work and what they really mean has taken me to a vast level of full realization. 1 second, everyone. Okay, so here we go. The first symbol is this. And you guys actually get a chance to see how this switcher works. It looks pretty complex, right? It's actually not. It works really easy. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get our source together here. All right, so we're going to use media. All right, so here we go. Now, this body, it's not the cell salt chart. Cell salt chart looks very similar to it. But this particular symbol in itself is all one really needed to know about how the body was divided, because the body was divided into certain parts. Now, I don't want you to take the numbers. I don't want you to take the planets and the symbols and start, what do they call them? That's a certain word I'm looking for, but it basically means when you incess over something so much that you lose the real meaning, that it's just a diagram. It's going to be limited because it has to come into 2 dimensions. But what you can learn if you understand the core principles in diagrams such as this is a massive level of knowledge, because you can write novels about just one of these symbols. But what this means is that how the human body is positioned, which we've already discovered, is it's actually positioned in a spectrum itself. And those spectrums, as you see now, it's 12 colors, not 7 colors. So we'll have to take this particular platform today and see that what they're saying is the body is divided into these 7 or 12 essences. And each of those essences govern that particular part of the body. And this is very important to know, because just like they say as above, so below, so what goes on in your mind, in your mouth, and in your eyes, and what you breathe is going to be the same as what goes on in the lower areas of your body. So if you contaminate the top areas of your body, then you have set yourself up to now contaminate the lower areas of the body. But remember which one comes first. It's important because we at times blame all of what's going on the lower vibration, lower entities, etc. And then we expect for the lower dense state of consciousness to somehow come into realization that we're ready to expand. When in reality, we should be indicating that and they should be following. You see how it works? So if you say that you're on a high intellect, then now you're ready to prepare yourself for the levels of expansion. And how you do that is you see what the symbol means and then you reconvert it into something organic before you give it to the individual, especially if they're not in full comprehension of it. But also realize that there are many individuals that are not in comprehension of what we're displaying today. And it is our duty. It is our duty, just as we want to interconnect the fibers that run this planet and keep it powered up, to advise individuals, to give them the information and the knowledge about, hey, this is what's really going on. So the next symbol here is another very similar symbol, and we've been pulling these up all week. And I'm just going to go through a few of them here. This is another chart showing the actual celestial node of the person, because remember, when you come into conception, you come into this environment a certain way, and that's why they have these node charts. And of course, when the star appears in the sky, then you appear here on Earth. You have a correspondence to a star. Many of these stars are larger than suns. But what the main knowledge you need to understand is that when you come into the divisor, what creates the mitosis, the womb is the one that knows how to extract from the seed or the semen and then bring the life in there into incubation and then bring it into this kind of reality. Okay? So we were going over these kind of images already, showing that again, you have this connection with your body as a universe. not just Joe Schmo from Houston. You have a universe inside of your body that has a magnificent system. It was the climax of the universe already installed. And that every single animal essence and trait, every single plant, insect, anything that you can think of could be found within the body. And that the different spectrums of the aura, the portals of the planets, their poles, the poles are obviously the portals, just like our North and South Pole are known to be portals. It's a torus, if you looked at it on a three-dimensional level. The portals correspond to the vibration and the animalistic energies that put us in a family, an all-connected family, no matter if there's relatives that you don't like or not, but an all-connected family known as the family tree of this particular planetary system. So there's an interconnected level that extends so far beyond us, it is us. Meaning that the whole secret was to figure out how to project your magnetic body further than your physical body. Because that's how it always was. In the beginning, if you want to use such terms, that your magnetic body was huge. It interconnected with every other planetary system all the way to the galactic core. Over time, through division, meaning pieces of you. Notice how even if something or someone dies here, that piece of it gets transmuted. This is important to come into full realization of. It doesn't really die. It gets absorbed into something else, and that something else births something else, and then now it becomes a part of that. So everything that's inside of you, the different entities and creatures and all these tones and vibrations and organs and complex things are all living with you. So this is why we're working on a new level of expansion, which equals us raising our vibratory frequency to remove certain elements. They pass through you. That's what the cleanse is about. The cleanse gives the parasites the opportunity to move through the feces and just leave. Because the herbs, just as like ayahuasca, raise the vibratory frequency of the body. That's why you eat the spirulina, you eat the blue-green algae, you eat all of this. It raises the vibrational frequency of the body, and then the lower frequency entities just leave. So there's a massive level of this program today that I'm also still going to deliver. It's going to take me only about 30 more minutes. But before that, I feel it's imperative to show you a video that a great friend of mine, Young Spirit Matter, Pablo Sarmiento, sent to me. And there's another gentleman, a Dr. Kassar, who actually uncovered even a deeper level of how the entire story, because I know some people when they saw that video with Queen Elizabeth said, I knew they were reptilians. See, she said they were kicking around like frogs, even though frogs are amphibians. But it actually is going to show you that there are earthworms, which, remember, the word worm was synonymous with snake. Great worm was known as the great snake. So the word worm and snake are the same. The difference is that a snake is a portion of the reptilian species, while the external portion, meaning one that treads on top, one that is on above ground, while the earthworm is the one that burrows below ground. But the makeup of them is the same, except for one is external, one's internal. It's almost like their pair, their interdimensional pair. So let me get this video queued up because you have to see this. It explains to you the beginning of why you want to eat certain things. It's not your idea. You have other energies inside of your body that need that food. So some of these energies, worms, they eat dead food. So every time you get this craving for dead food, guess what? That's not necessarily you, but it is you. It's another part of you that is grown with you, your baby, per se. And it now is saying, I want to survive. I need some more dead food. Now, this relationship is very similar to what you see with sharks. You know, that's how sharks have these little fish that are swimming on them and eating all the bacteria and the things that the mold and stuff that would accumulate on the shark, right? So there's a symbiotic relationship working with the shark and these fish, because the fish also stay around the shark because he runs off the other fishes that are big enough for the shark to really take a chance at eating. But those big fish also eat the small fish that are hanging around the shark that the shark says, hey, they're too small. I don't even need to eat them. Plus, they clean me off. You see? So, but what's happening is that when we eat this kind of food, the Cheetos and all these artificial flavors and colors, and believe me, it's almost in everything unless you actually inspect the food and make sure you're getting pure organics, et cetera, because there is an agenda to keep this kind of energy in your system. What happens is that when you eat it, when you consume it, it goes into your body and something's got to digest it. And because you're not calibrated to digest it, you're a mammal, you can't eat these artificial crazy foods. There are now worms and bacteria that live in, like you'll see, there's even worms that grow in minerals and metals. You see what I mean? So you have these different life forms now living inside of you, suggesting what you should do. And it's already been mapped out. There's a fish worm, there's a pork worm, there's a beef worm, there's a chicken worm. And all these worms get inside of the body and grow something to the tune of some of them even a foot every year. So some people have these huge worms inside of them that have attached themselves to the person's system. And this is a secret to why the word cancer, if you understand etymology, means the serpent. Sir, of course, let's just take that out. Can is, of course, the indigenous name for the serpent. But if you take the sir part and understand that connects with serpents because it's a dying cell. It's the low vibratory base pillar frequency that one needs to ascend beyond. So what happens is that inside of the body, you may have developed a symbiotic relationship with a parasite. And then when you look inside the external reality, the same thing is going on because external reality is only a projection of what's going on in the inside. And that's the key. See, now you should get the motivation that is necessary to begin the cleanse, however it may come about for you, mentally, spiritually, and physically, that kind of cleanse, because you get to the full realization, at least if you can conceive what I'm explaining to you today, of why everything in your direct world may be haywire or out of control for you. I'm telling you today that there is a real system of knowledge that allows you to get in full control of who you are. And there is no overseer or government or these kind of individuals that can impede your progress. But that system in itself, which we talked about, self-substantiation, in the condition in which you've been put in, may seem a little difficult at first because there are a lot of vibratory frequencies. They're not just the worms. There are other energies that you can't even see, all encouraging you to act and behave and do certain things. And this is where you have to gain control. Now remember, this is not for me to, I'm not telling you there's ghosts and phantoms and all this stuff around you and they want to kill you and they want you to die. All they want to do is live. If they can do it off your energy, then they're like thumbs up. Okay? What I'm telling you is that they now need to be given an ultimatum. Either they rise into the higher frequencies that you're going to because you're the control, you're the soul, you're the sun, you're the energy. So where you decide to move, then everyone else has to go or else they have to go. You see how that works? So you rise in the vibratory frequency. If you guys don't want to die, you tell your bodies, look, if you guys don't want to die, you can take the next shuttle out of here, train going out. You see what I mean? So everything can be done on a universal, symbiotic, harmonic level when you're in control of you. So remember, what Mother Cirque did, this is the church, artificial mother, not really a woman, men with wigs. What they did was they took this entire system that was based on nature. Like remember all the indigenous and even before then, the Atlantean, Lemurian, everyone understood nature. And they took that system and then they manipulated that system. And now, because that system runs inside of you, it's very easy for them to utilize that system and then bring it out externally. There was something very important that I need to capture, and I'm sure it's in my notes here about Mother Cirque. Yes, there it is. I almost lost the subject. You have to realize that, man, there's so much stuff going on. Just to push knowledge and information is a task. Since all the people before us were utilizing nature in the earth, the only way they can start to manipulate these individuals was first become like a surrogate mother. Try to give the people food, sustenance, and things like that. And this is what many of these cities used to do. They became like the parents for people who were just wanderers at first. You got to see the movie The Host. Then the next level of it was as they began to smear into nature and try to connect nature with their sciences, right? Then you had, again, two factions who just believed in nature versus the one who were trying to map out and number and label everything, okay? Then at a certain point, people couldn't, not even a certain point, it was hard to make individuals think. And this is what I came to the massive conclusion of. It was hard to make individuals think, especially those that knew about the earth and how it worked, that you had some magnificent system of power that belonged to you. Because everything belonged to earth. They had already learned that. So the mother church, Mother Cirque, became frustrated because they were having few converts into this scientific, psionic, synthetic religion of theirs. So what they decided to do, because again, even if they could get someone to understand the dynamics about Mother Earth, but still believe in the Mother Church, after a while, the person would, in going into nature and of course reading some of the books that were being published then, would say, but this is in me, this is what I feel. Because it was too close. Teaching him, even saying that they were the Mother Church was already getting them too close to the Mother. So guess what they did? You notice how there's a Madonna and then their sun is in the hand, right? These are idols. They bought the sun. So instead of using the Mother Nature, they said, okay, look, this is the other idea. Let's get something. If we're going to bring the external nature to them, obviously we can't bring the external nature because external nature is like going to lead them back inside. So we need to bring something further away. Let's bring the sun. Let's mess with the words. Let's make people believe that now the new mother basically is really the sun, the Redeemer. Okay? And let's spin that. Because then when people look to the sun, it'll be so far off, then they won't be able to access it because that's a whole nother frequency. And then we will never let them know that that's really Christ. And then when we say Christ will come back, it's just that the sun will rise and the sun will set. Now, here's another thing. With the dream scope, your body has a day and a night. And this is what's important. To understand how the dream scope moves, it's very similar to the tide. Remember, the dream scope means that just because you dream something that night doesn't mean that you're going to go in the next day that's going to happen unless you're completely lined up. But on the dream scope, it's like a tide. So at 8 in the morning, when you go out and see the tide, it's at a certain place. If you go the next day at 8 in the morning, it's not at that same place. That's why the dream scope wasn't straightforward like all of these, or our visions and our dreams are not straightforward like this rigid time system of 12 and 24 hours and all that stuff. That is the numeric externalized part of them trying to map out time. You see what I mean? But internally, it works like the tide. To return to the place in which you were before, you have to be able to gauge it as such because your body has a day and a nighttime. And of course, the day and the nighttime syncs up with the planetary system, but with many individuals works on a different node. But that's just something, again, to ponder for a while, because that'll give you also the reality that why is it that many of the animals, especially when you get further down the chain, like insects, let me check my sound. Why is it that many of these animals are the same? Big question. Every beetle in a certain species looks the same. Beetle after beetle after beetle. There may not even be a spot variation. Then as you move up, like if you get the dogs, let's say we're just dealing with Pekingese, all the Pekingese may look the same, but they're different colors. Maybe the eyes are different colors. And then when you get all the way up to the human, you can actually take the same two people, mate them, put them together. They have the baby looks one way, it's a baby girl, and then now they'll have another baby girl again, and then these two babies look different. Why? These are the same two people having this baby, right? Nope. It's not the same person having the baby. When time goes by, the cells change. Every 18 months, every cell regenerates. So who you basically become now, you will bring out that seed. And who you basically become now, you will incubate that seed and mold that seed to who you become. So that's what man and woman are doing. Every time they change, they bring out a new update. You see, we are updating. So it's important for us to start realizing what this is really about. Like, let's stop looking at this stuff and saying, Illuminati, and we just want to say that now. Now we don't want to see, hey, have we skipped over something? Take a look at this. Okay, there it is again. Us stretched out. And I've seen another one of these kind of images, but it actually looks like the man is mangled in the spokes. Right? That's the new Catholic version. It's on one of those major churches in the Vatican. But what it really is it's the division in the houses of the body. In your house, there are many mansions. There are many places. Take a look here. You actually have a chart that maps out all the major organs to the body and how they connect with the planetary energies. Just essences, archetypes. If you want to bring one of these powerful energies into an external reality, it'll be like bringing something that doesn't want any limits into a limited, governed, police infested reality. Someone who's putting it on the ice pole, those who's come from the north or Norse, meaning the actual polarization of the reality, the good and the bad. So what you have again here is a chart that shows you that each of the glands of the body line up to particular planetary energies and essences. You have the next chart here showing that the auric field is what splits those essences. Meaning that as you have the projection of the light from the body from the spectrum, excuse me, as the light coalesces around the body, it makes up your auric field. So if you're wondering, well, where are these planets? You know how they say that these planets are made of nitrogen and helium, hydrogen, and they're not even really solid. This is what they always say. They're not even really solid. Like if you landed on some of these planets, you couldn't necessarily walk on them like we walk on things. Duh, they're telling you right there that the auric field, the planetary systems are really essences of light. They're actually emitted from you, so you can get in touch with yourself at any point in time and become completely universal. Here are other emblems. Here we go, Illuminati, hexagram. These symbols were simple to explain and also were very rudimentary, like for children. They were more complex symbols. But this shows, again, basically the division of the light. Like when a spirit comes into the physicality, which is actually this symbol. This is what they use as that symbol. The spiritual world is always symbolized by the two interlacing triangles. Coming into the physical world, which is symbolized as the dual components or the cross, two intersecting poles. Now, if you don't think that you're the cross, as we pointed out in another show, why is it that you have a positive and a negative side? You have dual sides of the brain. You are mirrored. That's the trick again to the hologram. It mirrors everything. Everything that's mirrored is organic and comes from the original source. You even get into the heavy talismans. Oh, this is the one, the highest H. It's the one that backed down all demons. Yeah, you're right. It's another metaphorical symbol of man. There it goes, the pentagram, five base body, five senses, and circle around Ouroboros, snake, shell, sheath, actually to enclose the enclosure, the garden, along with, what's on the other side? The spirit with the two interlacing triangles, the soul, the solo, the connection. So you get that. Here's another symbol. It's the seven rays. It all spirals as we send the light, the single light or the sun through the prism, seven rays. So it should spiral out as such. And this is how the planets are thrown into a ray, and these are their orbits. This is time. Then now the plagiarizers. Yes, this is on the left first. It's time. This is the Rosicrucian highest seal of the Rosicrucian temple. But now you can't even tell the difference between this and this, right? Now it's become more cloaked. And it actually starts to get more of a specific meaning, right? But it still means the 7 rays coming into the spiritual reality, and then eventually you'll see in the middle man curled up in there, and then the zodiac, etc. Okay? Same symbol. Once again, here's the plagiarization. Now we have the wizard with the 7-pointed star. Oh, is that the 7 ray thing again from the spiral of the prism? That's what that is. The guy holding it, is that a magician? No, what they're saying is that's what the magician knows. You see the elements, fire, earth, wind, water. This is the cross again. So this symbol that you're looking at, which is called the emperor, is the same as this. But some people imagine that it's either less or more. Now here's another thing that I have to tell you. The buffoonery. Even if you go right now to Germany, what is it that a German person, no offense to the German, but what is it a German person knows about the Sanskrit? The Sanskrit? What is it the German person knows about High Lama, Shambhala? Right now. The same amount that they knew before. So what makes us think that these individuals that just usurped these people's country and took their symbols and their knowledge actually fully comprehended what these people were doing and what they knew? Because remember, now all these symbols are the same thing. Cross, hexagram, hello, cross, hexagram. Okay, it's the same thing, right? But now, look at what it says. It says, neither height nor depth can measure the possibilities of the human soul. Right? See, so this is one of the first ones before it got Heil Hitler below it. And so what you're dealing with is the Germans, just as you'll see that the Queen Victoria come from the German family, when they went into all these countries because it was their time to rule, like shepherds, German shepherd, that they took the knowledge and took the symbols because they felt it was their right. That they came through with another system, a martial law, Martian system. Okay? And this martial system, flip the W up, it's about wars. It's a new way to create a base pillar, new division. Look here, you'll see in the ascension to the throne, the dog in front, and the eagle in the last. Meaning that the actual base pillar in their system is the dog. The dog is their bridge. That's why the dog is the subhuman. The dog is CNN, K9, Conan. That was the bridge. But this is not anything foreign than someone else using a lion, as the bridge. So why we want to go and then the horse and Horus, when the horse became the bridge. You see? And the bird tribe, when the bird became the bridge. See, we take different bridges into this world. And that's why it's important for us also to understand the animal essence and energies, and also to not debase them by eating them. You see how that connects? How can you ever connect to all if you choose to embark in termination? Termination is the opposite direction. Anything that wants to live will run from you. There's a secret to some people say, how do you know? I think you're killing vegetables, and they go on that and they have you thinking like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to be in anything. Yeah, man was originally a breatharian. Try breatharian in this area then. It ain't gonna work. But there was a rule and a law which said if it runs from you, then it wants to live. Do not eat it. Simple principle. The trees are abundant. If the fruit falls on the ground, it will decay and spoil. So you are permitted to eat all the grains of the field. And here's another myth. Somebody said, well, I'll get weak. The worm wants the dead flesh, because how are you going to tell me that just because you eat vegetables, you'll get weak? And they say, yeah, because vegetables have no protein. Then why is it that this gorilla can rip off your arm? A gorilla in the outback can rip off your arm and choose only grass all day. Same thing with the horse. It will blow you out the water. You try to run with a horse. But it eats only grass. Oxen, you know, you're trying to do tug of war with oxen, it's over. He's not even getting started and you're already getting dragged. Eats only grass. So these people that are telling you that you need to eat meat in order to stay strong are the same ones that are carnivores themselves. Canaanite, carnivore, canines eat flesh. Okay? It's a new way, a new system. Eating, as we called it. This is not limited to also one particular group of people. I'm not talking about Europeans. I'm not talking about Orientals. I'm talking about those who came out of that spectrum, that world, which you will find in every single race, culture, and creed that is split up on this planet. But remember, while everyone else is playing the split up game, he'd be like, man, you're inside of me. Like, man, I've gotten so big, my magnetic aura, I've projected over the entire world. And so thus, anything that is not projecting their magnetic aura is already inside of me. It doesn't get away. I don't let it run off. There's no reptilians running around in my external reality. The only reptilians running around are the ones that are in the internal reality that are actually really there. The low vibratory base pillar beings that are still living inside of the body because we have done nothing but obey their wishes, which is to feed them. So here it is. I'm going to take a brief break here, put this video on also, and let you expand off of the Dr. Kassar's revelation. Also, there's some, obviously the guys that did this video put the music in, and they just went crazy with the music. Like, you can't even hear almost at times what he's saying, but it is clear enough for you to grasp what exactly is being conveyed. So let me get that up here. Heavy knowledge here because it really gives you some insight, to say the least. But it's a real thing. The suggestions, the inclinations, the urges. And this is why you can see in a great deal of the mythology, these inclinations and these urges were being controlled. Excuse the volume. Actually, yeah, we would need to turn the volume up on that too. I'm glad I saw that. But yeah, it looks like this video may be corrupt. So let me see if I can put another copy in here very briefly. But let me just explain what he's saying. Why not? What's happening in the body is that you accumulate all these parasites inside the body. And then what happens is, as they begin to accumulate, they attach themselves to your body. So they're really actually sucking your blood. They're not necessarily eating just the food that's coming in, even though they're absorbing that through their skin. They're also attached to a point where if you pull one, you'll actually start to bleed. That's why you need to allow them to detach themselves so that you can pass them. But what happens is, because this thing is pulling from your energy, and it's also defecating itself inside of you, meaning that everything has its feces. So when they eat what's inside of you, they defecate inside of you. And this serves to toxify you even more. So now when you want to see why are the masses like in this trance and why, it's because of what they're eating. Really, it's not a game. That what's happening is that over a whole lifetime of bad eating, they're never leaving the body. The person's never going into a high vibration to get rid of them, and thus they accumulate. Now, in addition to that, people who've gone into a high vibratory frequency can find themselves after that somewhat sick and disorientated, and then once they heal, things will pass out of them, and then they'll find themselves in a higher state of consciousness. So this is a real thing, people. This is not just some ethereal external dream. This is about you actually seeing that inside the body, what's going on inside the body is what's also going on in the external world, and that you're controlling that to a certain degree, but losing control rapidly. And this is why we want to put you back in the driver's seat. Now, let me see here. Let me just check over my notes to make sure that I'm not skipping anything, because there's some major points that need to be made here today, and then I can allow people to ponder this further on their own. Let me see. So again, you're dreaming in various spectrums, just to fully close down the idea of the dream scope. So every time you go in, it's a different shining of the ray, unless you're exactly at the same node point you were last time. Now, if you know how to really work the dream scope, you can map out your entire procession. it's a great work. Like even I have myself to do it, but you can pinpoint exactly where you are based on the world you begin to arrive in and the essences that are there. But the first key is to begin to become lucid. And remember, because the lucid state of consciousness is more in this area of the body and not in the lower areas of the body, that means you need to raise your vibratory frequency up in order to really be able to experience the lucid dreaming. So what you're dealing with is let's see here. Okay, so remember, what we're doing in the physicality is also a result in many ways of what we're doing in the dream world then. Like this is another thing for one to really ponder. The more ethereal worlds, if they're closer to the emanation of you, this still means that you can actually catch a lot of things that would occur in the physical world to you in your dream world if you're lined up. That's another benefit of being in there, not on the time lag or behind. Now, when you're acting primitive, you're behind. If you're still running around here knocking stuff over the head or going to the store and eating flesh and letting something draw you out to go eat a piece of chicken, something that's going to kill your body. When you put it in as above, so below, now God is killing you. God is killing us. Hey, God, you're killing you. You are God. You see how you absorb the responsibility. I ate God. You see, like what happens in this world is that we have to get to a point like every people running around here asleep, they're acting like, oh, you only can say this and you didn't say that right. And, and they're on this bougie, weird stuff. And so I'm like, look, this is grand glorious to me. I've already cracked this. The great arcanum is in reach. The greatest level of perception and realization is upon us. What's happening here is, are you going to be a stick of grass or an insect in the world that we're going to? Or are you going to be the fully expanded being that is in control of projecting that world? And that's not something that's going to start or end. And that's what lets you know it's already going on now. These are not riddles. Like this is a real thing. You're asleep. They say another parallel between the astral world and the dream world. Oh, you walk around the astral world and you see people there sleep. You walk around the real world, you see people here sleep. They're the same thing. So we have to stop separating things and let them separate it. It's like different types of, now I got 5 different laces I could put in these J's. You see what I mean? All of these different levels of division, you need to coalesce that in order to inherit that power. Meaning that you can't eat something this big with this little mouth. And then so now think of your astral hyperdimensional self. How are you actually piping in the spectacular energy of what you've gained if you've gained nothing to it? So how could you ever be in connection with it? Who are you in connection with, though? See, that's why I said the animals are the bridges. A bridge is a space in between one area to another, but it's still in existence, that space. So that means that while you're still acting like a dog, you're still being a dog somewhere. People don't get it. While you're still acting like a crab, they always have that word, you're still being a crab in the constellation. It's all there. Like this is not my stuff. It belongs to all of us. That's why anyone that says they take it and they take it for themselves and it's theirs, shame on you. He plagiarized us. How can I plagiarize you if you're telling the truth? If you're telling the truth, then it belongs to me and everyone else. See, that's what they keep missing. Like, they love to taint my character, make me wrong. I'm not the one telling you to go to the club tomorrow and get a couple drinks so that way you can go ahead and throw your whole pH balance off. I'm telling you what it is. Look at this. I have to get vainglorious today. I'll calm down and save it for later. How could you ever see like a bird, you eat the bird? Got the bird eye. This is symbol. Some people are like, oh, it's spooky. Is that a raven? Is that a hawk? They're in a division. Never realizing all birds are the same. Vision. Do you have vision anymore, or you keep consuming vision? Let's go with some more here, because I want to make sure I got through these images. I did spend some time in getting them scanned in and available, especially with a lot of the stuff I haven't even personally run across. And, it's just like that. This is also what they did to you. They took that 7 ray, they times it by 2 to create the shade world, and then they created divination art for every single ray. They also created, of course, you see some of the charts. I believe this is the one here. Let's see if this is it. I believe the angels are in there. So now they've even encrypted it further. All the essences like seeing, infrared, warmth, coldness, vibratory or sound, all the different essences, flight, all that became now encrypted within these angels' names. And that's why the Catholic Church controls the angels. They control these archons in a sense because they control them in the individual's mind. The individual thinks that this angel was the one that did something for them, this angle, because they're really thinking it's an angle. It's a bending of the ray of the light that creates this essence, but then they try to put a picture on it. They try to put a person on it. They try to put a being on it. And then what do they have after that? They have then man going inverted. Remember that idea that I had a while ago? I said, well, shoot, it sounds like that we're actually upside down then. If you send your Kundalini down, then that's the inversion. Right? I found a diagram that actually explains that. This is not my stuff. It's real rudimentary. I would at least got somebody to draw it, like Luis. So when you see here, this is a real thing, people. And that's why other people need to really know that this is something that is so serious to us that every single move that we make, we not only have to think for ourselves, we have to think what others are thinking. Meaning that things have gotten so crazy around the camp that if I don't actually think for what the lady that helps us with things around here is going to do and what the person that may be coming here is going to do, if I don't do myself the courtesy of just thinking it out and making sure everything is lined up for them, then they're subject to be something that happens off track. Why? Because they're off track. You can't expect things out of people when they have not received the correcting and lining up of their spectrum. This is also another fault. How are you going to actually get mad at people who haven't come into total realization yet? You see what I mean? It doesn't even make any sense. They can't even absorb what you're trying to think or say. So that's why I was saying the light emanation starts from the top and descends. So the ones on top are responsible for what's going on below. What you eat is responsible for what's going on down there. So don't be running around here talking about the devil make you do something before you turn around and say that worm, because you never figured out the connection between snakes and snacks, that worm is telling you what to do. Even the Arabs saw in one of the books, they said, don't eat the swine. When the swine or the worm, the trichina, gets into the brain, it controls the brain and tells the person what to do, and then he acts like a heathen. Why? Because a pig is a subhuman. A dog is a subhuman. They are bridges. So if you consume them, you become subhuman. You inherit. That's why I told you before, I said, man, you guys have no clue what you're dealing with. When you're talking about these indigenous people got extinct, got wiped out. Man, these individuals are on a totally different level. Some of them were already so into whatever it is that, I open up some of the coffins and they start smoking. I say, hey, let's leave that in there. That they would have someone eat them so they can live through that person again. You see what I mean? That was still when we were trying to figure out how to work out the system better. Now we got super fuels, and we got a lot of different things that we didn't have and still struggling. So let me get to the notes so that I can actually finish this, because we don't have to struggle any longer. Obviously the light has come to us because it has completed itself, meaning that we are the light, we are the soul. And when it comes to you, that means you collapse. Like Diana Mojack said, I take both energies, the one that say they're up here and the one that say they're down here, and I press them on each other. And I make them come together. Now, when you make it come together, you actually, when the mind, when these things insist, hey man, I need to go out tonight, man. I got the urge. You're like, look, man, we need to use our energy, this prana, for something else besides sexuality. It's a creative force. Can we not create something else with it? This is how you begin to talk to the other entities. Now remember, here's the interesting thing. You don't speak English. You speak actions. It's easy to talk to yourself because you can feel yourself. You feel me? Like when I talk to myself, it's not liver commando, act up. Some people start talking to themselves and they get really sick. Oh, please, please, God. You're God. Now you're begging yourself because you went and hung out in the low vibratory fields for too long and got contaminated. Here's a hand. Galactic tow truck at your service, coming from the galactic core. coming to repair holographic reality, mirrored reality, distorted, lenses all screwed up, repair you so that way you can now tie back into source. Why are we doing this? Because it's an entirely interconnected web. It's basically like if the phone went out here, there's going to be someone come to repair it. So if the phone goes out on Earth, damn it, why can't we all see that we just need to go and repair it? You see what I mean? It's like, to me, how could I ever worry about death when I'm not living? These people got us running around scared about what they're going to do. Oh, put you in some place isolated. Oh, thanks, maybe I can meditate. We're going to kill you. Oh my goodness, to create a force more powerful than you've ever seen? Bring it. You see what I mean? So what happens when you're in the know, then it's like, oh boy, they're rubbing their face, their heads, their wigs, their skirts now. Mother Church is on the run. She's actually at this point trying to pretend she's the mother. Trying to pretend she's trying to get back in. Science has now found out that nature is... Stop, scientists. Science is a synthetic celestial body. Synthetic body. Meaning you put all artificial stuff in you. You actually took all the nature and cloned it. You hybridized it, meaning you stretched it and removed the minerals and the nutrients. And then you consumed it, acting like something was going to happen that was going to be better than what was going on before, when it was perfect. You say you can't fix the wheel. You say, don't reinvent the wheel. Excuse me, don't reinvent the wheel. You know how to say that, right? So the wheel is synonymous with the pentagram, 72 degrees times 5, 360 degrees, a perfect circle. That's man. Let me show you again. Man and woman. Right here. All right. My switcher. I'm not reacting. There it is. Pentagram, 72 degrees, 360 degrees. Pythagorean said all the knowledge, 360 degrees, Pythagorean said all the knowledge were in this particular symbol. It's only because that you can't reinvent the wheel. So what happens is that if we at some point think that we can, then what do you start doing? Wobbling. How are you going to fix something that's already perfect? It's like fixing something that's not broke. So that's what happened, if you want to know. Like they started tampering with this and threw it offline. Now they got you tampering with it, eating stuff that's not even on the menu in the body and throwing it offline. And then again, bringing other artificial things, nanobots, things that are created into the body and not having enough frequency, high frequency and high harmonics to allow them to pass through you. Here's another deep mystery. All of the mercury and all of these different things that they put in a person's feelings because the teeth are piezoelectric were basically becoming the antennas for many of these devices. Meaning that all this stuff is particles, people. Any conductive particle that is symbiotic with the signal passes through. So because mercury and many of these substances are highly conductive, if you have it in your mouth, then the Wi-Fi passes right through the mouth. Then people are acting like the Wi-Fi doesn't affect them. You see? So all of this easily can be put in its place. Let me get the picture here. Because if you just simply magnify this. Here it goes. Ta-da, here it is. Not yet, not yet. Wait for it. Wait for it. There it is. What happens here, and this is what I was like realizing, this is the maximum realization. I guess I'll reveal the maximum realization here today. Maximum realization is a human being powers up, all electronics can't survive anyway. Boo-hoo. Bought a lot of electronics. That's why I use the electronics. I put them to work. I'm getting them closer to their end. Don't worry, electronics. I tell them, don't worry, you'll be done soon. You won't even have to work anymore. Thank you, Master. Because when the human being activates, the human being is a magnetic field. And magnetic fields, organic magnetic fields and inorganic magnetic fields don't get along. They're on the wrong poles. So when other organic fields are together that are already powered up and the magnets are running properly, the chakra wheels are spinning, they turn on other individuals that are in their proximity. But when they're around computers, the computers start haywire and it cuts off and the memory gets erased. Because we are magnetic. So when the world so do you see how even the antithesis was created in the computer, and then you see the end of the antithesis actually means the ascendance of the organics? It's all like written all in metaphor, like it's an antichrist, he's coming back, and all these things that they're saying are symbols for something. It behooves you at times to figure it out. So let's finish this. Just remember your energies and sources. In many cases, it's definitely what you're putting in your mouth, but don't forget about what's above the mouth. The ascendancy is based on this. Who's higher, who's lower, is based on how the higher and the lower hear. And of course, the supreme sense of the sight, it's what governs and engages us loading the program. No program, no program, okay? So from here first, govern your eyes. Don't just take anything in. Then the nose, this is the breath. As above, so below. Everything you do here is going to affect here. So in the breathing, realize that the descendancy, when they use this term, is correct. First, there was an androgynon. The androgynon was in love with itself. It could generate on its own. The next thing for the androgynon is it was divided. This is the narcissus. Now man looks at woman, and there's an attraction, but now they're divided. Okay? So I gotta finish that. There was a deep explanation behind that, but just give me a moment. I'm burning up in here a little bit because I guess the air conditioner is on, but he can't even feel it. It's artificial. Let me just finish this off today. Let me see here. Oh, this was the comment the other week about the ego and how, we have this ego, blah, blah, blah. Again, past this. That's what we were talking about before, because the ego is connected with passion. It's your wants and desires. You have a desire to live, don't you? You have a desire to have a child. You have a desire to do well. You have a desire to succeed. Is that ego? Yes, it is. But so you see how ego is a necessary component? It can, just like anything, run out of control if it's not controlled by you only, though. But as far as getting rid of it, where are you going to put it when you're everything? So just to clear it up, why I said last week or a week before that the ego wasn't going anywhere either. It'll just become the grass to the next reality. Looks like we got most of this down pat. Everyone needs to realize, again, this is what I had to finish with the nose, that the nose, just like the sun is in charge of the breathing, in many cases the breathing, the sun breathes in every 11.2 years and breathes out every 11.2 years. So the sun does have a breath. This actual large celestial body has a breath. So you need to see that the connection with you bringing oxygen in the body is just as important as what you're eating. And what kind of oxygen, because notice in your area, you may be living in the lowlands or downtown, as it's called, the vortex where it tracks everyone, but you can always see a higher place in the distance at times, or you can go to Google Earth and you say, find a place that has a higher altitude and go into that altitude and breathe that air. Let that be even something that you do every week. You should do it as much as possible, but if you just tell people, hey, where are you going? I'm going to breathe. I'll be right back. And that's how you handle it. Let me see. It looks like we got over everything at this point. We've gone over everything. There's, of course, a lot more. I did want to break down the whole thing with the garden, and I just have to save that for another show. Let me just, again, look over these notes just to make sure. Obviously, I'm super excited. It's going to be so much more expansive also, especially for me, because when I have someone here to assist in what's going on, it's just especially managing things, we can get so much out to you. Like I even have the Pegasus plugged in, which is basically 4 terabytes of data and of information, just consistently explaining what I'm referring to now about the whole level of expansion and how it's connected with the body. So don't let anyone tell you that it's outside, that this thing is external. And if it's really ethereal, this is something that's very vivid, but it's something that you have to do. It's like you need to be real with yourself. You need to see every time you put something in. Don't necessarily just say, oh, look at you, you'll never do well. But still recognize at that moment that this is the reason why. Every time you take something in. Likewise, I have another most important thing to say. Like one of the most important things I need to say on this show today. And that is, if someone has believed in you, if someone trusts you, if someone has given you an opportunity of any type, it's now time for you to, how did I put it? Yeah, I had to put it beautifully, but you have to basically invigorate yourself. You explode into what it is that you said you were going to do. If you've been given that opportunity, it's very, very important. And then some people will look at it and say, yeah, I'm doing a lot. People need to give something to me. But start thinking about how much you're really doing, especially in the scope of what was talked about today, with everything about this planet and how much knowledge we need to know and how far we're off track. So I wanted to say also to the people that are out there that believe in me, people who've supported me, that my life and my existence is wholly dedicated to this. That every single show we seem to bring it home, meaning that every single show there appears to be something that we all can keep expanding on. I'm growing just as much as you're growing. So in that sense, if you're wondering why a lot of this information is just appearing for the first time or whatever, it's because of where my heart is. My heart is genuinely into this. There's nothing else for me. It's automatic now. It's like a dolphin taking every breath. I can't conceive anything else beside full expansion. I've been doing it for too long. There's no way back. There's not even another direction. You see what I mean? It's all into a focal point. And so I welcome others to put themselves on that same accord. And as I said before, what's going on in this reality, especially with the lower vibratory mind states and the frequencies, still realize will only be transformed when the higher states of consciousness complete what they need to do. Because there are a lot of people that are out there that have been inherit the position of being the one on the high state of consciousness, and they're not even around. Like I'm trying to figure out, where's Dave? Where's Mike? Where's Michael Dasarian? Where's Zagamis? Where's all these individuals? Like I never get any emails more saying, hey, here's the latest, because they ran out, because they were going out. Now they got to come back in too. And all those people that they were leading in the direction that they led and left there, they're going to have to lead back in too. So you have to work also at making sure that happens. Get this information out there and get other people aware that, look, man, it's inside. You know, reptilians running, bipedal reptilian running around. The reality is running, if it is one running around in 3D, it's wholly projected itself off of a large group of people's minds and not even a real illusion. So that's not even a real illusion. That means even one step away from the illusion. Damn. You see what I mean? They're not even on that level. They're being, that kind of idea is being wholly fueled by us. But don't believe you won't see one run across the street one night if you start focusing on it. Some people think, well, what are you doing in a magical ritual? You put yourself in a circle, you draw a star and pentagram, phi, you start marching around this circle over and over, creating this vortex, and then you're doing these rituals and things and believing something's going to happen, and then and then you're scared, and then it stops. And it's because all of this is being conducted on energy. All you're really seeing is just how much you can do. So why don't you, instead of bringing some demon out of the vortex, actually bring yourself back into this reality to help these people out and help them expand? Because, as I said, we're all seeds growing. Some bushes, some plants, some trees. Like the acacia, some live in the desert but evergreen. You see what I mean? Like the pine tree never withering away. You see what I mean? That's the real symbolism. So don't let someone take the symbolism and then tell you what it means, and it's based on their limited externalized understanding of it. So let's just look at the last few media clips here. If there's any, let me just take a glance. And it looks like that we were able to cover everything. I'm going to take a look at another folder here. But you can obviously see that it's an amazing time. I have much more to deliver. There's some new information coming across. I'm absorbing a lot. I've ordered something to the tune of 50 paperback books that I know that are containing even more information about this micro-macro connection that we all have. So Just keep tuning in. We also want to get a major news station going on here, basically just a station where when you're tired, it feels like to me that if I wake up earlier in the morning, that was the other thing. Where is that in the notes? Because obviously that must be where other stuff is. I just want to make sure that we get to all this stuff. If the day, and that was actually the last thing, I guess that's why I didn't see it. If you find the day going by too quick, it's because you're waking up too late. I will show you tomorrow even. Well, actually, let's just wait till next week. Let me not put more stuff on the workload. I will show you next week that all of the animals, meaning that 5 base beings, you need to understand how this needs to operate, get up at around 4:25, 4:30 in the morning, right? That's the first thing you need to understand, that you need to be up around that time. And that's all I really want to say. Like, I have a couple other things, but I could get to going. But just realize, start waking up earlier, even if you have to go to sleep earlier. Because look, if you go to sleep, and I had to do the math on this, I went number crazy. If you you need to be to sleep by 9 o'clock generally. If you go to sleep at 10 or 11, it's going to equal you wanting to wake up around, sometimes if you got to go to work when you have to, but just people who have that kind of schedule, 8, 9, okay? But then what happens is that not only you're getting up late, most people are also just getting up. They're already tired. But if you get to bed at 9, you, in essence, lose the 2 hours, because if you went to bed at 11, but if you get up at 4, you gain 5 hours. Just do the math yourself. But what I'm saying is that you can actually get more out of your day if you go to sleep earlier so that you can wake up earlier. And then in that space, especially if you have a hectic lifestyle, like you got people always coming at you every day, there's phone calls, emails, there's all sorts of stuff going on, like what I got going on over here. There's nobody up at 3, 4 in the morning. Like when I get up at 3, 4, nobody's up. And that's when I get almost everything that I need to get done. I get more done between 3 and 4 and 5 in the morning than I generally get done all day with all of the different things that I have to do, but they're just small, minute things that, each person, one person here, emails here, etc., building graphics, etc. So just remember that get up early, that's going to make your body start to get in tune. Because that is the tune time. All the frequencies, all the artificial ones are not awake. the Wi-Fi's and cables are not moving. The data channels are not being saturated. So in the morning, that's when you can have your projection, align yourself up with your node. And so we'll talk more about that as we get in more into the dream scope, realm dynamics, terrain modification. That's a new one, being able to actually modify the terrain of your body in order to adjust into a new frequency without pushing or being too aggressive and getting into a frequency too strong and it does some damage to you. Because remember, if you've been eating all this crazy stuff all your life and then you have all these things that are connected in you and you just decide to drink something that kills them all, then it could impair your body to a certain degree. You could feel some withdrawals from that because you actually are now killing a part of yourself. So remember, raising into the vibratory frequency gives everything the option to say whether they want to go or stay. And that's everyone's choice. Wholeness and balanced vibration. My name is James Evans Bomar, developer of the Planetary Existence, but more than anything, the host of the AstroQuest platform, and it's just amazing. And wow, what more could I really say? Wholeness.